Well, hello. It's another Monday evening in October. It's October 20th. What the heck happened? The year is almost over. Anyway, let's talk about the rise in foreclosures that are happening right now. There are 10 states in this country right now. They're seeing a rise in foreclosures. So, what does that mean? Or what are we in for? So, we're going to discuss that tonight. And if let's talk about, let me bring this up for you. So, tonight we're also going to be discussing other things. The first important thing is if you have a question, please put QQQ before your question so my awesome producer can find your question easily and she can put that up on the screen. Every week we share our housing wins. We share the wins. So if you just went under contract, you sold, or you bought a house, please put it in the comments. Tell us about it. We want to celebrate it because everybody's still frustrated with this housing market. And yeah, it's still challenging for a lot of people nowadays, but people are still buying houses. Let's celebrate it. All right, I have a poll. We have a poll this week related to the topic at hand. The poll is, do you think the increase in foreclosures will cause home prices to drop? The answers are yes, prices will drop significantly, maybe slightly, but not much. No, inventory is still too low. So please, if you're just chiming in, chiming in, if you're joining me, please answer the poll. I'll review the results at the end of the stream. So we are going to do some talk about some other news. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the government shutdown is affecting the housing market. And I found another article about why the lower interest rates aren't bringing buyers back. What's going on? We thought that was going to help this housing market, but actually I have an opinion about that. So before we get into that, speaking of mortgage interest rates, I like to share with you what the latest rates are for the day. So as of today, October 20th, it says here they stayed static over the weekend. They're still hovering near 2025 lows. A conventional 30-year fixed is at 6.284. So right around that 6.3%. So it's still staying the same. It's been this way for the past couple of weeks. We had a slight increase on the conventional 20-year fixed and 15-year fixed. FHA went up to 5.949. VA's at 6.21, and a 5/1 arm conventional, it's at 5.561. That took a slight increase as well. So here's my theory about the interest rates. Quick story before I get into everything else. So I was out yesterday showing houses with one of my buyer clients. My buyer client, Nandi. Nandi is one of my subscribers, and we've been working together since I would say January, February, around there. So anyway, we go to an open house here in Bergen County, New Jersey. As you know, I'm here in northern Jersey, and there was a line out the door at the open house, like 2020 type of situation. Like we're lines out the door at an open house. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We're here again. Why is it? The interest rates are down. At least that's what I see here. As soon as those rates drop, everybody comes back out. So we went to that open house, again, line out the door. We go to the next house, which it wasn't an open house. It was just scheduled showings, right? The realtor just booked a scheduled agent showings during a period of like a couple of hours. So we get there, revolving door, just people coming and going. And Nandi was like, she goes, I can't believe this. This is like, where's everybody coming from? I'm like, well, number one, it's the interest rates. Number two, it is a really nice day. It felt like spring. It was like 76 degrees yesterday. But yeah. So interest rates are definitely having an impact. Although I'm going to read an article later that they're saying it's really not bringing the buyers out. It all depends on where you are. But if you're here in Jersey, yeah, it's still the same nonsense. I hate to say that. I hate to say it like that, but it's what's going on, guys. And I love to get on here and share, my experiences, what I'm seeing, with boots on the ground. Yeah, but that's the reality we're in right now, at least here in New Jersey. And I'm sure those other markets that are in a low inventory situation like we are, I'm sure they're still seeing a lot of the same stuff that I am. All right. So let's talk about the rise in foreclosures. Now, this came from Realtor.com. Okay. Here we are. All right. Can we all see this? Okay, good. So, all right. Foreclosures continue to rise across the U.S. These 10 metros are hardest hit. Foreclosure rates have surged across the country and are up almost 20% from this time last year. In 2025, we've seen a consistent pattern of foreclosure activity trending higher, with both starts and completions posting year-over-year increases for consecutive quarters. This is from Rob Barber, who's the CEO of Adam, a leading curator of land, property, and real estate data. While these figures remain within a historically reasonable range, the persistence of this trend could be an early indicator of emerging borrower strain in some areas. All right, we'll get into a little bit why the foreclosures are happening. So it says here there were a total of 101,513 U.S. properties with foreclosure filings during the third quarter of 25, up less than 1% from the previous quarter, but up an astounding 17% from a year ago. Adams' report incorporates documents filed in all three phases of foreclosure: default, notice of default, and notice of foreclosure, and real estate owned or REO properties, defined as properties that have been foreclosed on and repurchased by a bank. All right. These are the metros. I hate these pop-ups. Okay. So these are the areas that are seeing the rise in foreclosures. So here we go. Florida, Lakeland, Winter Haven, Florida, Columbia, South Carolina, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Florida, Cleveland, Ohio, Ocala, Florida, Jacksonville, Bakersfield, California. I was surprised at that one. Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville, Florida, Las Vegas, Henderson, Paradise, Nevada, and Jacksonville, North Carolina. All right. So okay, here we go. Now let's break down the data a little bit more. The markets with the most foreclosures. Nationwide, 1 in every 1,402 housing units had a foreclosure filing in the third quarter of 25, but some areas came away far worse than others. Among 225 metropolitan areas with a population of at least 200,000, those with the worst rates, Lakeland has 1 in every 470 housing units. Columbia, South Carolina, 1 in 506. Cape Coral, 1 in 589. Cleveland, 1 in 593. And Ocala, 1 in 665 units. And it's no coincidence that the 3 of the top 5 markets are in the Sunshine State. While it remains the #1 retirement state in the country, its older population means many are living off fixed incomes as HOA and insurance costs climbed in the wake of the Surfside condo collapse and increased climate disasters. A huge percentage of Florida's residents are retired on fixed incomes, and such HOA increases are completely unaffordable. This led to a fire sale of condos as elderly residents looked for places to live, all while losing their equity. That like kills me. That is so flippin' sad. So foreclosure rates in Florida may be relatively high due to some combination of surging insurance premiums, climbing HOA fees, and falling buyer demand. Additionally, many homeowners who were protected by pandemic-era forbearance or relief programs are now facing resumed payments, and they can't afford in light of rising HOA insurance costs. So it all goes back to the same thing, why we're seeing these foreclosure rates. I mean, we've been talking about this for the past year or two. This is why. It's the HOA fees, the insurance, property taxes. This is another thing in other parts of the country where we've heard of foreclosures rising because the surge in property taxes. So these are the 3 major things that's impacting this. And people are forcing people to go into foreclosure. Now, let me just see if they had. Okay, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Right, so if you see right here, as for 4th-ranked Cleveland, at least one mortgage lender blamed it on the area's high property taxes. Even though Cleveland homes are more affordable, many residents have lower incomes and limited savings, making them vulnerable to financial shocks. Metros with lower property values tend to be more susceptible to foreclosures. California is one of the most expensive states in the union, but Bakersfield, California is at number 8, has a median price of 409,968, well below the state median of 878,500. At number 9, Las Vegas is particularly susceptible to foreclosures. The local economy's dependence on tourism and hospitality makes incomes volatile when travel or consumer spending slows. With home prices softening slightly, some owners no longer have the equity cushion to sell before defaulting. The good news. There is good news. Overall foreclosure levels remain low by historical standards and not nearly where they were in 2008 during the height of the real estate crisis. At the time, an astounding 1 in every 54 households received a foreclosure notice. Even back then, Florida was tops in foreclosures. Sorry, I need my water. However, foreclosure rate gains, even if small over consecutive quarters, may not bode well for the housing market. Now, they go on to say there's a silver lining. People who want to buy, you can come away with a 15% discount below the home's actual value, but be certain you know what you get into. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit if you're thinking about purchasing a foreclosed home. So then it breaks down, goes into details again here. So, look, I'm not surprised. I don't think it's going to be 2008, but one never knows. And especially those people in the recent years who have purchased homes and they took on like the higher interest rates, and they can't refinance, right? And then say their insurance goes up, the property taxes go up. That's, that could potentially be a problem. So, Jen, we got some questions going on here. I see the chat filling up. Hello, Ms. H. What is happening? With so many losing their jobs, hard to know if some can still afford to purchase. Do you feel people are just afraid to make that move when things are still unstable, up and down interest? Yeah, Miss H, definitely. I think, like nationwide, there's definitely pullback. Buyers are definitely holding back right now. There is a lot of uncertainty. We have the government shutdown going on right now. Yeah, people are still losing jobs. But then you have the pockets around the country, like here in New Jersey. It's still a pandemic market. I can't take it. It's mind blowing. Because when I talk to my friends in other areas, like say Florida, out in Texas, I also have a friend out in California. And I have another friend in South Carolina. South Carolina's market is really slow. And who would have thought that was booming? But what happens when you have all these extra homes being built? Plenty of homes to choose from. So it brings your prices down. So, I mean, many of these states have been in a correction all year. We're not there yet. Jersey's not there yet. I mean, we'll get there, I hope. So, but yeah, it's you wonder, Miss H, like, who is buying these homes? When a person gives deed in lieu of foreclosure, what does that mean? Is it worse or better for the foreclosure closure? Oh, deed in lieu, yes. Honestly, Miss H, I can't like think off the top of my head. I think it's better than doing a foreclosure, like going full straight on foreclosure. I have to research that a little bit. Oh wait, my awesome producer, love her. Yep, thank you, Jen. This is something we learned in real estate school, and that was 10 years ago, so you got to bear with me. Okay, so that's a voluntary deed in lieu. Is a voluntary agreement where a homeowner gives a deed to their property back to the lender to avoid a formal foreclosure process. Okay, so yes, deed in lieu, you're giving it back to the bank. It allows the lender to take ownership of the property directly, and the homeowner can potentially reduce the negative impact on their credit score compared to the traditional foreclosure. So there's that benefit. Okay, you're protecting your credit by doing that. It's a voluntary transfer. So thank you for that question. I'm sure we all learned something new tonight. We got a win. Hello, Noel or Noel. I hope I'm saying it right. Congratulations. Thanks, Jen. Oh, I love it, love it. Uh, what else you got? Oh, congratulations. Your offer is accepted. Awesome, awesome. Wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that helped you. Thank you. And congratulations. Congrats. That's amazing. Um, all right. Anything else? Do we really have a housing shortage? Aren't there lots of people holding investor Airbnb properties? You'd be surprised, but no. I mean, yeah, there's this whole big thing that was going on. Investors bought like, I don't know, it was like 25% of the homes or something like that. From it depends on who you talk to. Right? Some will tell you, some analysts would say, no, the investors only own, like 1% or 2% or so. I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to. But yeah, there is a housing shortage. There is. Now, these investors who did buy these homes, you think they're going to turn around and sell them? Heck no. They want to rent them. That's how they're going to make their money. So they're not, and the Airbnb as well. But Airbnb, that's been kind of blowing up for a few years now because people do not want to pay the exorbitant fees on an Airbnb, so they're going back to staying in hotels. They don't wanna be dealing with cleaning somebody else's house and taking care of a house, so that's kinda they're still out there. But I'm part of, like, this Airbnb, short-term rental Facebook group, and recently I saw people posting that, their rentals are down. Damn. So the people just aren't choosing them anymore. It's too darn expensive. Hey, Julie, how are you? My son and military wife are putting off buying. They were just approved, but she may not get direct deposit on the first. Well, that's okay. You know what? It's all about the timing. You gotta, if it's not the time right now, then that's all right. It'll happen. Hi, Clark. Thank you for being here, Clark. Clark is like he's my loyal fan, my friend. Hi, Sabrina. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you again. A seller is just working with did a deed in lieu. Their credit score dropped 100 plus points. Whoa, really? Oh, okay. Maybe it isn't a positive thing for your credit. But then, you know what I think it is, Clark? Maybe it's just because, when you go through foreclosure, you can't, doesn't affect your credit for like 10 years. It's something like that. I think it is. Yeah, it's still a negative event, but it's less damaging too. So I think when you do that, when you do a full foreclosure, it's on your credit for 10 years. So, yeah. Let's see here. I am moving to the US and I have to make a choice between New Jersey and Arizona. Can you please tell me what should be the deciding factor from a housing perspective? How can I request your consultation? I'm so glad you asked that. In the description box in this video, hopefully I did I copy all that yesterday? Yeah, it's in there. Sometimes like my middle-aged brain, I forget to do things. There is a link and it says, if you need a realtor, click this link. It says jackie-baker.com. Click on that, fill out the form and I'll reach out. But what would be the deciding factor from a housing perspective? Well, it depends. What are you looking for? Do you wanna be Arizona, New Jersey, they're 2 completely different states, completely different. So, you're in the US and have an excellent credit score. Alright, awesome. But if you're gonna think about the 2 states, Arizona is very hot. It's very hot in the winter. I'm very hot in the summer. Um, I'm sorry, my phone's going off. Um New Jersey's completely different. We have 4 seasons, alright? So we have, fall we're in fall right now, which is absolutely beautiful. I love this time of year. Then you have the winter, it gets a little, eh, a little hairy, and then it's spring and summer. So it all depends. What are you looking for? What kind of climate do you want? Do you wanna be near a city? Are you looking for, good schools? A family, like a family-oriented, community, town. So but reach out, fill out that form, and we can have a conversation. Miss H with all the comments and questions. I love it. When with with the rent prices so high and going higher, makes you wonder if they're just going to sit on the property for rent and lose out on making money. They're gonna, yeah, they're not gonna sell these properties. You know, Clark, chime in at any time because I know down in Atlanta, down in Clark's market, there's a lot of investors down there that have purchased homes, purchased neighborhoods, and they're just renting them out. So yeah, they'll make money on them for sure. We're about to buy a house in Pennsylvania, closed in December. The last time we bought in PA was 2007. I hope we aren't heading for another crash, but we love this little home in the suburb of Philly. Listen, I understand your concerns. If you plan on living in this house for quite some time, I wouldn't be worrying about that. You know, even if it like the prices were to correct, say the day after you closed, you know, eventually the market rebounds, right? And it'll come back. You definitely will make money back on it. But congrats on being under contract and enjoy the house. Enjoy it. Hello, Cato. How you doing? I'm glad you're here. Um, think about how many people just like to go see houses and don't buy a house. It could just be people curious and then they hold their nose at the end. You know what? If you're referring to me seeing all these buyers yesterday, no, these were serious buyers. Serious, because majority of them were there with their real estate agents. Like typically open houses, you know, you see people go in by themselves, they don't have an agent. There's a lot of agents there yesterday at both properties I went to. And yeah, they were serious buyers. My lender just offered 5.25 15-year fix. Is that good? Should I lock that in? I mean, I'm not going to tell you to lock that in. If your lender is saying this is good, that's freaking awesome. Wait, what did I just say that the 15-year rate was? 5.54, and it was an increase this week. So that's good. You got a good rate. So, yep, that sounds great. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Happy to help. Always happy to help. Hello there, my fan. Thanks for being here. Ever do a video about mobile homes? I just sold my mobile home after 9 months and 5 escrows. Was a nightmare. I did a video, gosh, a year ago about manufactured homes. Same thing, manufactured mobile homes. Just talking about like basically the cons to owning a manufactured home that, you know, basically pointing out the things you need to look for. But I mean, I don't know about the process of selling them, so I didn't really talk about that. So, Lisa P, don't skip the home inspection even on a new build. If in buyer beware states you're stuck with any problems, no home is worth that risk. Thank you, Lisa. You're singing my tune. I preach this all the time. Don't waive your inspection, and especially if you're buying new construction. Get your own home inspector. And if the builder's going to give you a hard time, yeah, too bad. Too bad. You can't trust them. Clark, a lot of the institutional investors down here, they're starting to sell in certain parts and buying in other areas that demand higher rental returns. So they're reorganizing and repositioning. Of course they are. Of course. Okay. So let me get on, excuse me, let me get on to, I wanted to briefly talk about, how the government shutdown's affecting the housing market. Now, oh my God, excuse me. So here we go. Housing market stalls as government shutdown drags on. Just over 2 weeks into the federal government shutdown, housing market transactions have slowed, a trend unlikely, to reverse until the stalemate in Washington is resolved. For the week ending October 11th, listing and sales activity remains sluggish, reflecting buyers and sellers' reluctance to jump into the market at this time of uncertainty, unless you live in New Jersey. Anyway, sorry, I had to say that. Homes continue to spend more time on the market than last year, and prices remain flat, signaling higher inventory and lower competition. Smith forecasts that overall housing transactions will decelerate until Republicans and Democrats in Congress finally come to an agreement and resume government funding. Parts of the country where flood insurance is required and where the now lapsed National Flood Insurance Program is the only option could see closings paused altogether. However, while the national housing market remains soft despite mortgage interest rates holding steady and demand, low inventory sections of the Midwest and Northeast continue to be robust sellers markets where buyers have to compete to get their offer accepted. So there you go, Northeast. Hi, this is where I am. Yep. Okay. New listings, home prices edge up. New listings were 4.6 higher last week compared to the same period last year. A modest uptick reflecting the continued hesitation of homeowners to list their properties. This pullback is seen in the September monthly housing report data, where newly listed homes fell 1.2% year over year. With the best time of year to buy approaching, buyers may enjoy more for sale options, though long-sitting homes may be more common than fresh listings. Overall inventory increased 15.1% from last year, easing weekly for the 11th consecutive week. However, last week marked the 100th straight week of annual gains in inventory, with 1.1 million listings available on the market nationwide. 1.1 million listings. Okay, first of all, that is still super low, but I want to say something. In 2022, at one point, we only had 900,000 listings across the country. Now we're finally up to, we broke a million. We're up to 1.1. Isn't that crazy? I can't believe how long that took. Active inventory is growing significantly faster than new listings, an indication that more homes are sitting on the market. Homeowners aren't eager to sell. The typical for sale home stood unsold 4 days longer than a year ago, hitting a median of 63 days on the market. It's still not bad, 63 days. Median list price rose 0.4% compared to the same week in 24. However, when adjusted for home size, the price per square foot fell 0.5% on an annual basis, softening for the 6th week in a row. So that's what's going on right now. So they're saying that the market stalled. People are holding back, but I think people have been holding back anyway. Like the sellers, meaning the sellers are holding back. They're waiting to see what happens. Because in a lot of parts of the country, as you know, they're seeing price reductions happen and homes are sitting longer and they don't want to deal with that. So they'd rather hold out, wait for interest rates to come down. This is when I talk to people, when they're thinking about selling their homes, this is the feedback I get. They say, I want to wait and see if interest rates come down, more buyers are going to come out. I'm going to get bidding wars again. Okay. Where are you moving to? If you're going to stay in the Northeast, you're going to run into the same problem and you're going to be competing again. If you're moving down south, then you're in good shape. But that's the general consensus. A lot of sellers are just feeling like, you know what, the rates are coming down. We can wait. So that's where we're at. What else we got here, Jen? Autumn, a seller's agent just chastised me for asking for an inspection and said that is why I lost a bid. Then you know what? That was not the house for you. And if the agent made a big deal about that for you asking for an inspection, I would find a new agent. I'm sorry, I hate to say that. I don't mean to speak badly about other agents, but I'm going to call them out. If you're giving your client a hard time and saying, "No, you should have waived the inspection entirely," you're not doing your job. So, Autumn, don't worry about that. Lisa, some sellers overpaid during the peak market, often waiving inspections and paying above asking. Now they're hoping buyers will cover their mistake by paying for the same inflated price. Yes, and this is what's happening out in Nevada and Las Vegas. These are the people who are selling now. These are people that they bought their house during the pandemic in 2020 and 21, and now they're trying to recoup on that. They're not. You can't. Don't be the buyer who inherits someone else's bad decision. Thank you, Lisa, for that little bit of advice, Sarah. Appreciate it. Clark says, stick by that inspection. You need to know some insight of what you're buying before just purchasing the house. Thank you, Clark. Clark, yeah, Autumn, seriously, don't worry about that. I can't believe, I can't, but I can believe that an agent would say that. My God, we got to do better. I just don't. Anyway, hey, Candy, how are you? Welcome back. You've been ahead of the curve about importance of home inspections. I'm seeing more people reporting that deals are falling through because homes don't pass inspections. That was number one in one report. Yeah, yeah. When I was dealing with this during the pandemic, and my people were like, "Oh, we just," my clients would be like, "Well, should we waive it? Should we? I want to waive it." I'm like, like hell, you're going to waive that inspection. No way, no, no freaking way. Just can't, because you don't know what you're going to walk into. You know, it could be thousands of dollars in repairs. Uh, any tips on saving money in homeowners insurance? I feel like it's such a ripoff. The only bit of information I can give you on that is just to shop it out. You know what? Or get connected with an insurance broker that'll do that work for you. That'll go and that'll like search the lowest rates for you. We just went through this. We just changed our homeowners insurance because our insurance, I think, went up something like 27%. And my husband, he researched it all on his own. I think he looked at like 4 different insurance companies. Just shop it out or get a broker to find the best price for you. Off topic. When we were looking at houses at the Jersey Shore last year, a realtor warned us to be careful what we said while in each house because some sellers have cameras, recording devices. Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. I had a listing over the summer. The homeowner had cameras all around the house, and there were signs up, and we had to warn everybody. We had to warn the agents, just be careful, you're being recorded. Yeah, this is a thing. Yep. Okay, I'm selling my home on Staten Island, I assume, SI North Shore pending, and buying another house on the South Shore pending. We're trying to work the 2 closing on the same day, end of November to December. That's tricky. I'm not saying it can't be done. It totally can be done. Just have patience with it and just try not to get frustrated because listen, things happen. Things happen all the time. So, but congratulations. Congratulations on that. Thank you for being honest. Of course, that's why I'm here. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to tell you. Do freight trains blow horns at night? Toured a home about 6 houses away from the tracks. First time buyer, Northern New Jersey. I'm not sure if this will be allowed while sleeping. I don't know. I don't think they can if they're going, especially if they're going through a residential area, but I don't know, honestly. Yeah, there's a lot of like commuter trains and freight trains around here in the northern end up here. So but keep in mind, Jen, go back to her question again to Sabrina. Sabrina, one thing I will tell you, if you're contemplating buying a house near the train tracks and you're okay with it, just be aware not everybody's going to love that. So when you go to sell it down the road, you may not command a higher price compared to people who are not that close to the train tracks. So just be aware of that. So, all right. Me and my wife purchased a home, BCMI, asking price 215 for 1,250 square foot with 1.2 acre lot. 8.5. What? Amazing. Congratulations. Congrats. Wow, you got the seller to pay 3%. Ooh, that was a good one. You did really good. I love that. I love it. Love you. Thank you, Laura. Thanks. I'm glad you got. Oh, thank you, John. Appreciate that. So nice. I guess I was too respectful and turned off the audio and covered with tape, kept privacy for buyers to feel they had privacy. Daniel, that was very nice of you to do that with your cameras. That's nice. But there's a lot of homeowners that are like, they want to know who's walking through their house and they're going to do anything to try and find out what they're saying. They want to know what people think of their house. And planning on getting a home inspection as a seller just to make sure I cross my T's and dot my I's. So, quick story, I met with sellers. They actually are hiring me to help them sell their house. It's going on the market next year in January. And this is what they're doing. They're doing a pre-listing inspection. If you're going to sell, highly recommend doing that. Please consider doing that. Even if it's going to cost you a few $100s, $500, depending on what you get. I think it's money well spent. So you know what issues are there. You can get them repaired before you even go on the market. But let the buyer do their own inspection. Do not share your inspection report with the buyers, because I've heard this for sellers, and I've seen this. Um, just recently, I forget which, it was a deal I just did. It was this past year, and the sellers were like, "Oh, the listing agent was like, oh, they did their own inspection and they're happy to show the report." I'm like, "No, that's okay. We got it. We're going to do our own." So if you're going to do that, just don't feel like you have to share your report with the buyers. Let them do their own inspection. And most of the time, if their home inspector is decent, they're probably going to find or not find anything wrong because you've already fixed the problems that your inspector pointed out. Thank you for the channel. You're welcome. I've been looking for a house in New Jersey and New York. My question is, should I wait to 2026 to see if mortgage rates will go lower and buy now? All right. This is what I tell everybody. Don't try to time the market. Okay. If you're in this position where you need to buy now, buy now. But they're talking about interest rates coming down. Are they for sure? Nobody knows. It's very hard to predict. So if you're in a position where you need to get that house now, and before 2026, and you have everything all ready to go, you're financially ready to do this, and all this, everything's saved, your closing costs, down payment, all that stuff, just go with that, honestly. It's all based on your timing, your financial situation. It's our first time buying a home. We plan on paying $44K for the first year because I heard the first year most of the money goes towards the interest. Our place is Battle Creek, Michigan. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. No, but that's good. Okay. These crazy homeowners with their cameras everywhere. I don't know how you could live in a home recording you all the time. It's not as anyone can hack into that. I know. But with the Ring doorbell and now Google, Google Nest, you have so many different cameras and doorbells, and just, oh my gosh, it's like Fort Knox. People are people are getting crazy with it. But that's what they do. Joe Bug, thanks for your time and honesty. I watch your show every week, the day after you post. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you like it. Glad you like my content. Callie, trains blew their horns anytime they wanted where I lived in Colorado. We were literally right across the street from the tracks and the place shook. I got used to it though. Couldn't sleep without. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I guess they do. They will blow the horns at night. So just another reason to really think about this when you buy it down the road. Somebody else may not appreciate it that much. So, Miss H again, when wanting to sell a house and buy another one, will it be better to sell current home and buy the other, do contingent of sale on the first own home? Need advice. Ms. H, did you see the video I put out last week? I talked about this. It's my client's secret to selling, my client's secret to buying a home before selling theirs. Go back and watch that. There are plenty of options that you can use to achieve that goal. So if really what it should be, if you can buy the house and then sell yours. If you're in a competitive market, let me put that stipulation in there. If you're in a competitive market, try to sell it first and then buy. There are options such as if you want to take out a home equity line of credit, on your home and use that as your down payment to put on the next house. This is where it gets a little tricky. So once you get the offer accepted, you get under contract on the house you're buying, then you turn around and get your house on the market and sell it and try to do both at the same time if you can. But ideally, what a lot of people like to do is buy that house first and then, or if you have somewhere to stay, like if you have friends to stay with and you don't mind, you can just sell the house and then just, or like do a short-term rental or stay with family until you buy the next place. So it can be done, but go back and watch that video. I did it was last week. I want HOA that bans Ring cameras and drones. Good luck with that. Yeah, by the way, speaking of HOAs, by the way, I have another story tonight. If we have time tonight, I'm gonna share that with you guys. But I want to talk about the interest rates. That this article I found said lower rates were supposed to bring home buyers back this fall. Here's why it hasn't happened. It's gonna be more of the same, I bet. This year's traditional spring home buying season may have disappointed, but the fall was going to be different, the real estate would bet. The narrative: mortgage rates at 11th month lows and the hype around the Federal Reserve's interest rate cutting plans would finally convince buyers to come off the sidelines. Nice try. So far, there are a few signs that the housing market has emerged from its deep slump, and now the mortgage rates are holding stable around 6.3%. Inventory is climbing, suggesting that sellers are willing to test the market, but today's rates and prices remain too high to interest most buyers. Mortgage rates have come down, but they're still within range of where they've been since late 2023. It really isn't a huge motivator. Mortgage rates averaged 6.27% this week through Wednesday, near year-to-date lows, and down from 6.7 range. They were stuck in most this spring. While the drop has improved affordability slightly, the changes haven't been drastic enough to pull buyers off the sidelines, especially because home prices are still climbing in many markets. Hello, New Jersey. In July, Zillow calculated that the mortgage rates would need to hit 4.43%, far lower than even the most optimistic projections, in order for a median income family to afford the typical home in the U.S. Today's market suggests an ongoing stalemate between buyers and sellers. Buyers may now be waiting on potential lower rates in the spring, while many sellers have lower mortgage rates and the flexibility to wait for the higher priced offers and pull listings if they can't get their desired price. Meanwhile, the traditional markers of failed sales, like contract cancellations and pulled listings, remain high. Around 56,000 home sales, or 15% of what went under contract in August, were ultimately called off, according to Redfin. That's the highest cancellation rate for the month since 2017. Real estate professionals in markets that have been hot and cold this year all say buyers appear to be picking up some power this fall as sales slow. In San Antonio, Texas, there's often a small uptick in fall home buying, but it hasn't materialized this year. While the city's best priced homes still sell quickly, everything else is sitting. Inventory has jumped as buyer demand has remained weak, and sellers frequently find themselves competing against new construction homes, which can be attractive to buyers for the builder paid rate buy down offers. So that's the other thing I always talk about with you guys, right? These new construction communities, they hurt the people with the existing homes because they offer these rate buy downs. Now, can a seller offer that as part of the deal to a buyer? Absolutely. I saw that a few years ago when the rates first went up in 2022 in that fall. I did see some listings where buyers were offering to pay for discount points. Sellers were offering to pay for the buyer's discount points. So you could do that. You could. So Rebecca, we're going to have all student loans paid off next year, so only debt will be one car. We also have excellent credit. Will this make us be able to afford more home? Absolutely. Once you get rid of that, you'll be first-time home buyers. So thank you, Rebecca, for that. Yes, absolutely. The less debt you have, the higher the credit score you have, the better interest rate you will have. All right. So your credit definitely impacts what type of rate you'll get. So kudos to you. Keep chopping away at that get that paid off, and you'll be in a good position. That's awesome. We had to coordinate 2 closings in July of '24. Then the CrowdStrike attack occurred. All systems down for all financial institutions. Home seller in New Jersey flipped and demanded his money. Wasn't happening. I would I would freak out if that was me. Gosh, that's crazy, Cat. Yeah. Jackie, I love your videos. My name is also Jackie. Hi. I'm 39. My hubby's 43. Never bought a house. My hubby promotion and great pay. The craziness of the market is still keeping us from buying. It's crazy times. It is. It is crazy times. But if you don't want to buy yet, that's fine. Just keep socking away your money. Just keep saving your money. That's all we can do. All you can do. And when the timing's right for you, it'll happen. Are insurance companies still using drones to check roofs and backyards? Heard they cancel insurance with the pictures if they don't like what they see. They sure are. Yes, they are. They're still doing that. I think even more so than ever now. So funny you bring it up. My another buyer I'm working with, they reached out to me yesterday about a house they were interested in, and they want my thoughts before we go look at it. And I pull up the seller's disclosure to see what's going on with the house. And the house is built in the early 1900s, and the homeowner did not know the age of the roof. And I've had this conversation with this particular buyer and his fiance before, that you got to be super careful with that. That would be the first. If the roof is in bad shape, that's the first thing you have to repair, because you will lose your homeowner's insurance like that. So, I don't like to. People say I'm like, I could be negative Nancy and whatever. I'm not negative. I'm realistic, and I'm trying to protect people. And if you don't have the money to put a roof on right out of the gate, that you're not buying that house. No. So yes, Callie, they are still using their drones, and they're still dropping people. Yes. So Jackie, did you hear about the former real estate agent in New Jersey who failed to disclose renovations in her house and had to refund the buyers 1.5 million and take the house back? Yes, Clark, I did. Yeah, it was Margate. It was down the Jersey Shore. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. Yeah. Yes, 1.5 million they sold the house for. So down the Jersey Shore, if you're doing renovations, they changed all the codes and everything, because after Hurricane Sandy, they had to make stricter building codes, and some houses you had to put them up on stilts. There's all these things pertaining to, like, protecting them from the water and all that stuff. So apparently that person did the renovations on their own. They didn't apply for all the permits because they didn't want to get flagged by the town by having to put in all these extra things that you're supposed to be doing to your shore house. And so the new people bought it, and they come to find out, I don't know if they were trying to do their own renovations. Somehow they figured it out, and they sued the prior owner, and they got their money back. So yes. Yep. Hey, Christina, which is better for the buyer? Asking the seller for a rate buy down, or asking the seller to cover buyer agent's fees? That's a good one. If it was me, I'd ask for the rate buy down, because you want a lower interest rate, because you're going to lower your monthly payment. Yeah, that's what I would do. The buyer agent fees, it's a one-time deal. It's a one-shot fee. So that's what I would do. Because you're going to lower your monthly payment. What if interest rate is low for buying a home now, but you still have a high down payment to make, less for borrowing? Can a person still buy, or the lender will still look at the score? Interest rate is low for buying a home now. I'm sorry. Are you, Miss H, are you referring to the credits? Did you mean the credit score, or am I like misunderstanding this? Yeah, the more money you have to put down on a house too, that helps as well. As far as that affecting your credit score, like if you have a lower credit score and then you're putting higher down payment, I think the credit score will still have somewhat of an impact. Yes. Okay. So you meant the credit score. Yes, I think it will have an impact. The other key thing they look at is the DTI, debt to income ratio, right? So if you have too much debt, like you don't want your DTI to be over 28%, in some cases 30%, because that's just showing that, after your net income, how much of that income is going to pay debt, your monthly whatever debt you're carrying, and it should be 30% or under of your income should be going to that. So, that was a good question. Thank you. You guys are awesome. I love all the questions that I get. So, you want to hear the latest HOA story? Oh my gosh, this is freaking hysterical. You ready for this one? You know me and my HOAs. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Air Park Neighborhood HOA plans rule change demanding home buyers be pilots. Is that legal? You ready for this? Okay. Here we go. Here's the question. Our community is an air park with the prime amenity being a runway for airplanes. It was built in 1974 with the intent to attract pilots with airplanes to live with their airplane in the community. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool little neighborhood there. Only two people owned a property here who did not fly or own an airplane, but they supported our goals to maintain our air park as a premier flying community. There are communities that appeal to tennis players, golfers, swimmers, MDs, CPAs, and lawyers, but none have ever restricted their owners to those with a special interest. Some of our members are concerned that non pilots may be attracted to our community, and these members want to restrict new buyers to only those who are involved in aviation and hold a current and valid FAA pilot's license. We bought with the knowledge we could sell to anyone. We are opposed to this restriction because we think it will limit the buying market and therefore decrease the value on our properties. We have asked and are receiving conflicting opinions. In your opinion, can the membership impose this new restriction? Okay, so this is like it's almost like a Dear Abby column. I feel like I'm reading. Um, so this guy, they responded, "Not sure that I'm aware of any housing communities that are geared specifically for doctors and lawyers, but I get your point. I'm not going to comment on your concern that limiting buyers to licensed pilots will reduce your property values because, frankly, I have no idea if that's the case." I mean, he's not wrong there. Um, on the one hand, you're reducing the pool of eligible buyers. On the other hand, the exclusivity would appeal to serious pilots and thereby increase your housing prices. But whatever the answer, it's not going to be relevant to whether such a restriction would be legal. Very interesting to get in his point of view. Covenants and properly passed amendments to covenants are given a broad assumption of validity and are only rarely found to be unenforceable, typically because they violate the public policy of the state or fundamental constitutional right, because they are arbitrary in their application. But generally speaking, and if a restriction on ownership does not otherwise violate discrimination laws, it is theoretically possible to amend your declaration of covenants to restrict ownership to only licensed pilots. That's really interesting. So, what do you guys think about this? Say if you just like planes, but you don't like flying them, you're just like you think it's cool to watch, planes, take off and land all day. And now that you're being told, no, you got to sell it to a pilot. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not crazy about that idea, but look, it's the way this guy's explaining it, it sounds like they can get away with it. So that's just, another day in the HOA. I think I'm gonna do a new segment. It's gonna be called Another Day in an HOA. And we're gonna talk about all these little stories. So that's really interesting. So that they're gonna restrict it. And I understand his point. Like if pilots want to live there, right? It's such a niche market. Yeah, the prices they would definitely the increase in value if it's a very desirable place, but I see the flip side too. So, anyway, and people may not wanna buy it because they don't wanna have that burden of having to find a buyer who's a pilot. So, anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Cat O, what's the standard down payment these days? I'm still seeing 20%. I did have a couple of buyers over the summer that put down more, but standard is 20. Agent Dawkins, we have a community like that in Ocala, Florida. That's very cool. I think it's kind of cool. We have one in Denver as well. Look at that. Who knew? Who knew? I had no idea that that those communities existed. Can you explain how housing regulations affect the price of houses in the market? Rebecca, are you meaning housing regulations? Not like, can you be more specific? Are we talking like, I don't know, um, not just HOAs, but like, state regulations, things like that? Just need to have a little bit more clarity on that one. I'm sorry. Victoria, when is your recommendation for when to put your house on the market? What time of the year? I can't retire to the end of October. Victoria, that's such a great question. Thank you. Thank you for asking that. So, what time of year? I'll be honest with you. You put your house on the market anytime. Here's what I would tell you. Is spring very is spring popular? Yes. Here's the thing. What I find with the spring market, it gets more competitive because everybody's doing the same thing. They're putting their house on the market. So you're going to be competing against other homes. You also have what we like to call in this industry, we call them tire kickers. The tire kickers are people that are not serious about buying a house. They just want to come and be nosy and look at your house and see how it's decorated, and then they're like thinking, well, maybe I want to buy a house. Yeah, no, we don't want that. What I always recommend, if you can do it, put it on the market just before the spring market, like in the winter, because you have less competition. The buyers really start coming out. At least what I see here in Jersey, people start becoming active again in January, like towards the end of January. Things start heating up. So, thank you, Candy. You were so welcome. Does the purchase of current home prices affect the property taxes significantly? Such a great question. So, people ask this a lot. If I buy a home, are my property taxes going up like the next year? In a nutshell, no. But will they increase? Yes. So how does that work? It's all about the reassessment cycle. How often is that town and municipality reassessing the values in that town to bring up the property taxes? Okay. But now, mind you, your property taxes increase every year no matter what, right? Because you have your town budget, your school budget. So you are going to see some type of an increase, not a tremendous amount. Like here in Jersey, there's a cap. They can't increase our school taxes by more than 2% a year. Can't do it. So depends on where you live. I don't know I don't know every state's rules on property tax increases, but people get this thought in their head. I paid, over ask for this house. Now my taxes are going to automatically go up because I paid this. Now I know in some states they do that. Okay, your taxes will increase based on the purchase price. But a lot of times that's not the case. But again, you got to look at the assessment cycle. So talk to the town tax assessor and find that out. Okay. It comes up with the administration to help make affordability better. Okay, we're talking about the new regulations. How would that affect the values? It's hard to say. I don't know. I really don't know. We won't know until all that stuff goes into effect. Yeah. Sorry. I wish I had a crystal ball, Rebecca. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. Victoria, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Glad I could help you out. I believe John Travolta lived in that type of community. You know what? I could see that because I remember hearing that about him, that he was a pilot. Look at that. Anyway, all right. How we doing on our poll, guys? So we have 182 votes. And the question was, do you think the increase in foreclosures will cause home prices to drop? All right. Yes, prices. 23% of you said yes, prices will drop significantly. 60% said maybe slightly, but not much. and 18% of you said no, inventory is still low. So very interesting. Thank you for participating in my poll tonight. Um, so yeah, that's, as far as foreclosures, let's, wrapping this up. I keep an eye on this stuff. When I'm trying to come up with content ideas, it's for Monday nights and for my Wednesday videos, reading everything. And I don't think we have anything like serious to really worry about. Like, I don't think we're going to go into a 2008. But here's the reality, guys. If these prices continue to rise, right? And the mortgage rates are still gonna be hanging around here, and then this is the problem. You tack on your high property taxes, you tack on the increasing insurance and your HOAs, that's where you're going to run into problems. So my piece of advice for everybody is that you be prepared for that. Do not overspend. If you're gonna buy a house and say your lender says, "Hey, you're approved up to $500,000." That doesn't mean you go out and you buy a $500,000 house. Try to keep that purchase price below whatever the maximum amount your lender says you're approved for. All of my buyers do this. We never go to what they would never buy according to what they're approved for, because they know they'll be stretched too thin. And I appreciate, the lenders are like, "Oh, you're qualified for this amount." Yeah, that's great. But we're not gonna they're not gonna be house poor. So that's what we got. Great Adam, yes, great questions tonight. I loved all the questions tonight. You guys are great. You're welcome, Kat. Thanks for being here. I love seeing you all. Miss H, always have a good time with you and your help with knowledge. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It's such a great chat. This is why I look forward to this every Monday, to see the same people coming back too. I just love it. And I'm just happy I'm able to help you guys. So just a reminder, like I said before, if you need a referral for a real estate agent, here you go. That's my website. Please go there, click on that, request an agent referral, and fill out the forms, and they'll get back to you. Also very important, please put details in the questionnaire that I send you through the email. Sometimes I'm getting requests back and people are saying, "I want to buy a house in New York." Where in New York? You gotta be you have to be specific. New York's a very big state. So I need to know. Need to know that. The other thing I wanna share with you guys, did you see this? I think I shared this last week. I have a new feature, a new, link on the description box. You can ask me a question. If you don't need a real estate agent referral and you just have a general real estate question, please click here, ask your question, and I'll get back to you. And sometimes I may even put it up on the live stream. So, you guys give me good content. So, anyway, let me stop the screen. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here this week. I appreciate all of you. Um, Stay tuned. We'll talk about more of the same next Monday night. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'll see you next Monday night. Have a good one.